this book. When I first opened We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer, I was presented with this. A map of Old House. But it's not really a map of the house at all. It's more like clippets of different maps from various city streets, railway locations, and there are some things that could be considered to be floor plans. It also includes arrows from one location to another location, cryptic instructions, some part of a cipher, random numbers, and I began to think, this is House of Leaves. And surely enough, as I started reading through the novel, noticing strings of Morse code appearing at the ends of certain sections that on occasion also contained other codes, ciphers and random capital letters, websites and symbols and translations into other languages, and yes, footnotes. Not to mention the big Navidson name drop, it quickly became clear from where Marcus Kliewer drew his inspiration. To its credit, though, We Used to Live Here is not House of Leaves, and to its discredit, it's not House of Leaves. It's a much more readable story, but it's House of Leaves light, lacking in the meticulousness and seriousness that Mark Danielewski put into his work that makes it feel like a presence in and of itself. Kudos to Kliewer, however, for making We Used to Live Here an entity all its own. This is the story of Eve, who, with her partner Charlie, have recently purchased the novel's central house. It opens one evening when the Faust family shows up, while Eve is home alone with her dog Shiloh. Thomas Faust, the father, has dragged his wife Paige and their 3 kids up to Eve's front door because Thomas grew up in the house as a kid and he thinks it would be cool to show his own children where he grew up. Eve, people pleaser to a fault, reluctantly lets them in where they remain for much of the rest of the novel. What first appears as an innocent, albeit creepy, one-and-done tour, the Faust visit gradually and steadily devolves into one disappearing act after another. One of the Faust children disappears and reappears. Something tall and shambling in the basement appears and disappears and reappears in the attic. Charlie's locket disappears and reappears with a photo missing. Charlie disappears and reappears on the road up to the house. Shiloh disappears into the basement and then reappears at the top of the basement steps. A window on the upper floor, well, it just disappears and reappears entirely as a different window. And my attention span disappeared and reappeared continually. And this is just scratching the surface of all the kookiness that goes on with this place. There are games of hide and seek, some innocent, some very much not. There are doors that sometimes lead to a psychiatric hospital, gas lanterns and cymbal-playing monkey toy, a creepy cabin in the woods, dogs and gods and doppelgangers and dumbwaiters. All the while we're treated to narrative intermissions that ask us to peruse newspaper clippings, blog posts, real estate ads, interviews, all creating this increasing sense of conspiracy-level paranoia at the scope of what's happening. It's a hell of a lot to digest, and Kliewer seems to break the narrative fourth wall by slipping in some advice for the reader. Eve, when she becomes stressed, begins to notice small details around her, and we should too. Jenny, the youngest of the Faust children, keeps a little notebook handy to record information that she might find important, and we should too, because it'll come in handy when things subtly begin to repeat themselves. The way a character stands or the words they say at the beginning will be reproduced in different characters in very different situations later on. Sounds will come back, certain images, settings will be revisited, and details will have changed. Very specific numbers begin to pop up, some of it important, some of it not. Maybe it's all important, who knows? And if you don't have a good memory, you might miss all of it. Speaking of which, if We Used to Live Here has any type of overarching theme, it's memory. At first, like everything else in the novel, memory appears as a rather innocent theme. The memories of our childhood and the places we used to call home, memories of the ones we love captured in photographs. But then the idea of the Mandela effect is introduced, and characters begin to question whether or not the memories they have are accurate. Character identities are intricately linked to their memories. Not sure if the person you're talking to is the same person you were with a moment ago? You better ask them to remember something from your past. It might help. It might not. Some characters have the ability to throw their memories into the minds of other characters, and what they remember might be vastly different than what's on record. If all of this sounds like a giant chaotic mess, surprisingly, it's not. Despite everything that's going on with this book, We Used to Live Here is smooth and readable. I probably could have knocked it out in one sitting if I didn't want to nap out so much. And if I didn't find myself falling into rabbit holes on Reddit where literary sleuths are currently puzzling out various other things associated with this book that they got from websites that are mentioned in the novel. I can't reveal much about that because, frankly, I didn't care too much. I mean, working out a whole page of Morse code might have been interesting to me if I had more of a conspiracy-type mentality. But if you're fine coming away from a novel, not understanding all of it, but being unnerved by understanding the gist of it all, then We Used to Live Here is actually a pretty fun ride. If you don't like not knowing the whole story, well, there are supposedly 2 other editions in the works that may clear things up. And there's Reddit to keep you occupied until then. So that's it. We Used to Live Here. There's a lot going on. You're not going to understand it all, but it's still a lot of fun. Happy reading.